Hello there, everybody. I am Lirina, and I'm here today with a very dear friend of mine. She got bronze with Iberin Sticks, and 2 years later won Luxembourg their first victory with Liria. I'm talking, of course, about Anna. How's it going, Anna? Oh, fine, thank you, Lirina. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm very anxious about what will happen, but I'm glad to have been able to win such an amazing national final and to be representing Sweden. It's a huge honor. Many people thought that you would never return to Eurovision, so tell me, what exactly changed? Well, I was pretty much adamant that I wouldn't return to Eurovision actually, because it was an amazing experience. It changed my life, but I'm someone who doesn't just second guess herself. I'm somebody who 20th guesses herself. And every time that I thought, oh, I've got a good song, I've got a nice concept, what if I return to Kyla or try out at Melodiefestivalen again? Because this wasn't my first time. My first time was in year 8 when I was the runner-up with Die Letzte Stunde. So from time to time I've had this idea of, what if I return? Like, but then the doubt has entered my head of, oh, but I've built up this legacy, I've built up certain expectations of me, and it just becomes so overbearing and overwhelming. So every time that I contemplated a comeback, it didn't happen. But then I had a story that I couldn't shake from my head, something that happened many years ago, but it had an impact on many things in my life. And I was just encouraged by you, by Poir, by many people to bring this to Eurovision, or at least try to. And sometimes it's the combination of a song and a story that you think, yes, the right moment has come, and I really need to share this with the world. And so, despite my fears, that's what I did. Why exactly did you choose to go to Sweden and not, for example, participate in the All Stars edition of Kaila? Well, really, when it comes to competing in Luxembourg, it's a bit complicated for me because I'm the hot, and I am the one who picks the lineup of each Kaila, basically. Obviously, the songs that compete in Kaila do so because they won provincial selections, but I'm the one who has to pick from a field of like 20 songs, which ones exactly, which six, or 10 in the case of All Stars, will make it through to Kaila. So I would find that a bit of a conflict of interest, to be picking entries to go against me. Plus, I wanted to separate my job as the HOD from my other vocation as a musician. I didn't want to cross pollinate the two things. And Sweden is a country that I've always admired deeply. Of course, I went there 8 years ago and had an amazing experience. And it's very different to Kaila. You know, both are extremely competitive environments, but it's something different. And honestly, after Uwe Sticks and after Lydia, both of which I'm deeply proud of, I was afraid of going back with a lesser song. And I thought if I participated in Kaila, there was the chance that I might win on the value of, oh, it's Anna. She's returning. We don't know if she'll ever return again. Let's vote for her. Whereas Sweden was holding their own All Stars, and their HOD was very, 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 very insistent that I come. And I was like, huh, I'll think about it. I'll think about it. I don't know. I'm not sure. And they're like, we really want you in the All Stars lineup. I talked with Poir because Poir also had an invitation, and she said, "Listen, you should go. You've got a more compelling story to tell this time." So I said yes, and the thinking was that their All Stars is like a Eurovision in itself. I mean, you're up against 27 artists of extremely diverse styles and backgrounds, and they're all bringing their better than A game. So I thought if I could win All Stars, then I would feel like I deserve to go back to Eurovision. And if not, then it's another moment in my CV, you know? What exactly was the inspiration for Le Tromfon? The inspiration for Le Tromfon was basically my childhood, my adolescence, especially, yeah, my younger teen years. Uh, it wasn't the happiest of times because, yeah, my father left us when I was very young. Then my mother remarried with an abusive guy who was an alcoholic, and he was very disturbed. And there was conflicts with my mother as well, between me and my mother. Uh, she had two other children, and I felt constantly negatively compared to them. As they grew up, they followed the path that she would expect of them, whereas I did not. I've always had a stubborn streak, and I've always followed the beat of my own drummer, but that was a recipe for disaster because I was supposed to live in this very orthodox, doctrinaire way, and the older I got, the more I realized that I don't fit into what my religion expects of me. I don't fit into my family's expectation of me. And, I had this constant feeling of rejection, basically, compared to the others. It felt like it was obvious that I was the black sheep of the family. And it didn't help that as I was discovering myself, I was having to simultaneously hide myself because I don't know what my mother's reaction would have been if I had came out, you know? And so I was desperately hiding, trying to hide big elements of me. Uh, I was a silly teenager, I guess, because I kept detailed diaries and logs and writings, poems, thousands and thousands of pages. And that's just something that's always been in me, this urge to create and to document and to not forget. Because I went through my grandparents forgetting everything, and the idea of all my lived experiences, all the things that basically make you you, just disappearing and then having no recollection of them was something terrifying for me. So, yeah, as a kid and as a teen, I wrote a lot, and we grew up pretty poor. We grew up in this neighborhood of Esch-sur-Alzette called Belleval, which is very industrial. We were living in the shadow of steelworks, and I was going to this horrible, like, convent school. And I felt like the odd one out there too. And I was just dealing with it by venting both my frustrations and also letting out a little bit of my dreams. And I don't know why I had this faith in my mother did not read my writings, but I did. I thought she at least would value my privacy. But one day I came home and I realized, well, I came home and I went to my bedroom and she was there leafing through all my things, all my writings. And I just felt so bare. I just felt so exposed because pretty much everything that I was desperate to suppress was in her hands. And the proof that I was, for definite, this l'autre enfant, in contrast, the other child, in contrast to her other two, her son and her daughter, it was right there. And I felt like a part of me died that day. And it's been many, many years. Obviously, she confronted me over everything that was in the diary. And even 20 years on, I'm still fearful of, like, confrontations with my mother or my family. And every time that I go back, even though it's basically an open secret by now, I have to hide everything about me, and if I'm going back for Christmas, I can't take Clara with me, my girlfriend and writing partner. And it just feels like what my family know of me is so limited compared to who I am. And it's just distressing knowing that you're always going to be the black sheep. But I thought I would, get some catharsis and make a song out of it. And here it is. It's actually one song of multiple songs in a series, right? Yes, that's right. In fact, last night we dropped the entire album, also called L'autre Enfant, named after the titular track. And it's very new for me because I'm a very conceptual writer, and I tend to enjoy abstractions and philosophical writings and writing from perspectives other than my own, you know. Uh, so to write an album where it's basically, oh, the concept is, there is no concept, it's just each song is based on a memory that still haunts me, that still impacts me, you know, that was the idea, and it was something very bold for me because I'm not so used to putting too much out about myself. I hide behind these characters and these concepts a lot of the time. So Le Trompe the album is 9 songs, and each song takes on a different thing that still impacts me today. Uh, we have First Confession, which is about religious trauma and coming to terms with this idea that you're brought up thinking, oh yeah, God's love is unconditional, but then you learn about hell, you learn about sin. Supposedly everybody is a sinner, so and we only get God's love if we stop sinning. And my realization that what if my entire life is a sin? Which technically it is, I guess. Just my existing and loving is anathema to the gods that we were taught to believe in anyway. There's a song called, there's obviously L'autre enfant, which is the third song. There's a song called Loss Adjustment, which is about the loss of my grandmother, which happened when I was in Kotor. And that was just devastating for me because she really felt like the one undeniable source of unconditional love for me. And it was a hammer blow. And the fact that I wasn't told she was on her deathbed until it was too late, it really, I still don't understand the thinking behind that. I wrote, the next song is called Worth, and it was about how I try to not link my feeling of self-worth with how much my family value me, but it's a struggle, and I still look for my family in the audiences, or for them to phone me and talk about me being in Eurovision or whatever, and it never happens, and you're like, no matter what I achieve, I'm never going to make them proud. But I should be proud of myself. Then there is Confiance, which was about the second time my mother got her hands on intimate things for me, because my ex broke up with me abruptly and basically was kind of brainwashed by their parents to believe that everything that we had was just wicked. And they found my mother and gave my mother all my stuff that had been in the flat while I was traveling, and that was even more incriminating, and it's about these trust issues because you grow up with no concept of privacy, no concept of having your own life, you know, without it being scrutinized by someone. That's part of what made me create my language, obviously. And then the last song, not counting the 3 instrumentals at the beginning, middle, and end, is about my stepfather and the fear that he instilled in us, and the way that even though I know my mother will never think of me the same as her other children, when I discovered that he was abusive to her too, I just wanted to destroy this person, So it's several memories. None of them are pleasant, but all of them are part of me, and the process of getting over them is part of me too. And I'm really proud and honored to be able to bring this album out into the world. I'm going to ask you a little bit about some of the lyrics of your song that I thought really stand out. So tell me about Sie sind Preisrosen, ich bin das Unkraut. Well, that means like they're the prize roses and I'm the weed, and that really is the impression that I get when I go back. And that was the impression I got when I was growing up too. Uh, I was the eldest, and it was as if they came to show me what I should have been, you know. And when I was growing up, it always felt like I was the first to blame automatically, that my siblings could do nothing wrong. And yeah, it was a lot to deal with. This idea that, oh, it's this perfect family picture except for you. And that's part of the fundamental part of this song, really. What are you saying when you say, ici c'est ton fils, ta fille, et moi l'autre enfant? Well, I'm saying basically, you know, when a parent talks about their kids, they're like, oh yeah, my son, my daughter, blah, blah, blah. But I don't feel that immediacy. It's like my son, my daughter, and Anna, you know, the third one, the other one, the one that didn't fit into the norms. And it's such an alienating feeling. I can't just be one of the other children of hers, you know. I have to be this other thing, and a lot of it is because of how much we fought when I was growing up, but don't every parent and teenager fight? I mean, I wish that we could just put it behind us and that I could be open with her, but I don't think that's ever going to be the case. What about the lines talking about likening yourself with a raven? Well, as you might know, ravens tend to leave the nest before they actually can fly. And in German, there's this saying that someone is eine Rabenmutter or eine Rabenelter, and it's like raven parent. And it's this idea of an uncaring parent who doesn't really love their child, you know. And I wouldn't say that my mother doesn't love me, but I would say that she can't love me like she loves the others, you know. I felt like a raven. I had to leave the nest before I was able to. You know, in the case of a raven, they leave the nest before they can fly. And in my case, I left the nest before I was in the mindset to be able to. I left at a really young age, and I didn't have money, didn't have many friends, didn't have options really. And I struggled a lot. I struggled a lot just to make it, just to make it through the day. And I got into situations because of leaving home that I never would have got into otherwise, that also are quite traumatic for me. And I had periods where I was living on the street or squatting, and eventually, thank God, me and Poir found each other and moved together into a little room, you know, always as friends, mind you, before you get any wrong ideas. So yeah, I felt like a raven that fell to earth because of this need to leave the nest. But there is some optimism there too, because I say, uh, did I fall freely or was I thrown? Either way, I got back up alone. And I'm saying, did I really leave because I wanted to? No, I think I left because I was pushed, you know, because I had to. But whatever happened, I'm back on my feet again, or like in the case of a raven, I'm flying high again. And I got back up because of myself. Why do you leave a part of the song untranslated? Well, I left a part of the song untranslated because I say before that part that it was easier to create a language that my family couldn't understand, and all the days and weeks and months that went into crafting this language. It was easier to do that and to train my mind to think in this language of my own. Nagadej Kewni Poli fent anoddos, an siw finil en in caith gonavosain na mogelin Kewni. You know, I can just shift between my language and other languages that I speak with no problem after all this time. It was easier to do that than it was to try to get them to understand, because they will never understand. And I wish they would, but, you know, you realize things and you make... So basically, my creating a language was an act of self-preservation, because without being able to express myself, I was going to go crazy. But exposing everything I was thinking was also extremely dangerous after I knew that I wouldn't get privacy. So I created this language, and then after saying that, I address my mother, but she'll never understand those lines. And there was a certain symbolism with that. I watched the music video, and it was quite well, it was very moving. It was quite difficult to watch in parts. Yeah, it was quite difficult to film as well, because it was like reliving those moments, reviving the rawness of everything that happened. I'm very meticulous with my music videos. Most music videos from Flux are directed by Bois, but I always directed my own. I directed Even Sticks, I directed Lirina, and I directed this. Not Poix and not the house directors in Sweden. And it's because I wanted to bring, with each frame, the story to life. And I wanted every second to tell something. And there's a ton of symbolic moments there, as well as just pure reenactments of everything that happened. There's a lot to digest, and I really hope people will, I wouldn't say enjoy the video, but yeah, will watch it and feel moved. And finally, what is your hopes from coming back to Eurovision? Well, mainly I want to get this message out into the world, and I hope people will feel with it. It'll resonate with people. Any parents out there will learn the perils of having obvious favorite and least favorite children. And I really, really, really want to do Sweden proud as much as I did Luxembourg proud, because this country means so much to me. After all, both of my songs for Luxembourg were produced with the Conseil Suédois. So really, a lot of my career I owe to Sweden. And I so want them to not think, oh, we shouldn't have gone with this crazy foreign girl. I want to live up to the All-Stars billing, and yeah, to make them proud, yeah, and maybe even make my family proud, but I'm not holding out hope. Well, thank you for joining me today, Anna. It's always a pleasure to talk together, and good luck tonight in Belgrade. Thank you so much.